That is not a spider crawling across a rock. It is the tail of a venomous snake, and the rest of the snake is waiting a few inches away. This is the spider-tailed horned viper, a rare viper from the rocky landscapes of western Iran, and it hunts by turning the end of its own body into bait. From a distance, you see a small dark creature twitching on pale stone. It has a rounded body. It has dangling leg-like shapes. It moves in little bursts, like something edible trying not to be noticed. Then, the rock beside it opens a mouth. The trick works because the snake is almost invisible, and the tail is the only part that is supposed to be seen. The viper does not chase birds through the desert. It makes birds come to it. Look closely at the tail and the illusion starts to fall apart, but only for us. There is no separate animal here. The spider body is a swollen, fleshy knob at the tail tip. The spider legs are long, thin scales, hanging and projecting from the sides. When the snake lifts and twists that tail, those scales swing and flicker. The whole thing becomes a tiny performance. A bird looking for insects does not need a perfect spider. It needs a moving target that says food. The viper supplies exactly that. The strangest part is not just that the tail looks spider-like. It is that the rest of the snake looks like nothing. Its body is mottled beige, gray, and brown, broken into the same rough tones as the stones around it. Its head is broad and triangular, with horn-like scales above the eyes. But even that shape can disappear against fractured rock. On a bare branch or open sand, this snake would stand out. On a limestone slope, it becomes part of the ground. The viper sets the stage by doing almost nothing. It coils close to the rock. It keeps its body low. It hides its head within striking range. Then it lets the tail become the loudest thing in the scene. This is called caudal luring. Caudal means tail. Luring means the predator is not only hiding from prey, but actively pretending to offer the prey something worth approaching. Many snakes do a simpler version of this. Some young vipers wiggle bright tail tips that look like worms. A frog or lizard moves closer, and the snake strikes. But the spider-tailed horned viper takes the idea to an extreme. Its lure is not just a colored tip. It is shaped like another animal. The tail is not waving randomly. It curls, jerks, pauses, and shifts in a way that makes the fake spider seem alive. This matters because the prey is not a slow insect crawling into a mouth. The prey is often a bird. Birds have sharp vision, fast reactions, and the ability to leave instantly. To fool one, the snake has to solve 3 problems at once. It has to hide a whole venomous body in plain sight. It has to create a small visual target that attracts attention away from that body. And it has to strike before the bird understands that the meal has teeth. From above, the setup is brutal in its simplicity. A bird scans the ground and sees movement. Movement is food. The bird angles down, probably focused on the little spider-like lure. The snake is not asking the bird to trust the entire scene. It is exploiting a split second of attention. The bird's eyes lock onto the tail. The head of the viper is already positioned nearby. When the bird comes close enough to peck, the snake has only a tiny distance to cover. Field observations recorded strikes in about 0.2 of a second. That is faster than the moment of recognition. By the time the bird discovers that the spider is attached to a snake, the strike has already happened. The trick is especially effective because the lure attacks the bird's ordinary decision-making. Insect-eating birds spend their lives noticing little movements. A twitch under a leaf. A dark shape on a pale rock. A leggy insect shifting position. Usually, that sensitivity keeps them fed. Here, the snake turns that skill against them. The better the bird is at finding small prey, the more likely it is to inspect the moving tail. The viper's camouflage does not have to be perfect forever. It only has to hold while the bird makes one bad approach. And not every bird seems equally vulnerable. Researchers studying the viper found that migratory birds were the ones fooled in observed hunts, while local birds may be more familiar with the danger. That makes the scene even sharper. A bird passing through unfamiliar rocky country sees what looks like an easy meal. A bird that lives there may already know that some spiders bite back in the worst possible way. The environment makes the deception possible. Western Iran's rocky slopes are full of pale stone, broken shadows, cracks, and sparse vegetation. Everything is irregular. Nothing gives a clean outline for the eye to grab. A coiled viper can look like a folded ridge of stone. Its scales are not merely brown. They are patterned to break the body into fragments, so the brain stops seeing snake and starts seeing background. In that kind of place, a fake spider does not need a web. It just needs to twitch against rock. The viper is not built for a long pursuit. It is an ambush specialist. It saves energy by waiting. It puts its most visible motion at the safest possible distance from its head. But the lure is also a risk. The snake is inviting another animal to attack part of its body. Field researchers have seen that the tail can be damaged, and a lure can even be lost. The strategy works only because the payoff can be worth it. A bird is a valuable meal for a snake living in a dry, rocky habitat where opportunities may be separated by long waits. One successful ambush can justify many motionless hours. The anatomy reveals how unusual this snake really is. At first, scientists did not know what to make of it. A specimen was collected in the 1960s, and for years, the bizarre tail was treated as if it might be an abnormal growth or a deformity. That reaction makes sense. If you saw a preserved snake with a strange swollen tail covered in dangling scales, and nobody had watched it hunt, the safest answer would be that something had gone wrong with that individual. Then more specimens showed the same structure. The weird tail was not an accident. It was a feature. The species was formally described in 2006, and later fieldwork confirmed what the anatomy had been hinting at. This was not a snake with a damaged tail. This was a snake with a weaponized illusion. It is also not the same thing as a rattlesnake rattle. A rattlesnake rattle is made of hard keratin segments left behind after shedding, and it is used mainly as a warning signal. The spider-tailed viper's lure is built differently and used differently. Its tail vertebrae are normal. The knob is soft tissue, and the spider leg effect comes from specialized elongated scales. Instead of warning enemies to stay back, the viper is telling prey to come closer. One tail says, "Do not step here." The other says, "Lunch is right here." The lure does not appear fully formed in a newborn. The structure develops as the snake grows, becoming more elaborate with size. That fits the way its hunting can change with age. Younger snakes with less developed lures have been observed taking prey such as lizards. Adults with the full spider-like apparatus are the famous bird tricksters. The adult tail is not just decoration. It is part of a whole hunting system that includes body pattern, patience, position, timing, and the prey's point of view. If you freeze the tail in a close-up, it looks strange but a little messy. You can see the scales. You can see that the legs are not real legs. But the animal it is meant to fool does not study it as a museum specimen. A bird sees it from a distance, from above, in harsh light, while making fast choices. The tail is moving. The rock is confusing. The snake is still. The illusion is not designed for a human hand holding a photograph. It is designed for a hungry bird making one quick mistake. That is why the spider-tailed horned viper feels almost unreal. It is not simply camouflaged. It has split the visual scene into two characters. One character is a harmless spider, animated and exposed. The other is a hidden snake, silent and waiting. They are the same body, but they do opposite jobs. The tail creates attention. The head stays out of attention until the last instant. The viper's name sounds like a monster from folklore, but the biology is more impressive than the myth. Over generations, any tail shape or movement that brought prey a little closer could matter. A slightly more noticeable tip, a slightly better wiggle, a scale that made the lure look more leggy, a body pattern that hid the coil more completely. Natural selection does not need to imagine a spider. It only needs birds to make decisions, and snakes with better lures to eat more often. The result is an animal that looks impossible because it is built from many small, useful pieces stacked into one outrageous trick. Go back to the first image now. A tiny spider seems to crawl on a desert rock, but there is no spider. There is a viper wearing the landscape as camouflage, using its own tail as bait and turning a bird's hunger into the final step of the trap. The most dangerous part of the scene is not the fangs you can see. It is the little moving shape you thought was something else.